Hello! How long does it take to become a black belt? Was a question posed by a kid on the Karate Nerds group on Facebook about a week or so ago from the time of recording this, I can't remember. A lot of people had to give their opinion and answer to this question. Some people I agreed with, some people not so much. But it just seemed like every single person had an opinion on this. I haven't seen a question on the Karate Nerds website get quite so many answers. So I thought I'd make a video about it. And I saw one person write back saying, "You're asking the wrong question." And I think I agree with that the most, because to ask how long does it take to become a black belt in any style of martial art, it is asking the wrong question, because it's like asking, that's like assuming that's the ultimate end goal. And obviously it was just a kid that wrote the question, so you can forgive his ignorance at such a young age. But a lot of adults also think this, and I've seen this time and time and time again. They come in and they get to black belt and they're like, "I've done it, I've achieved black belt, I can go now, there's nothing more to do." A lot of people say that black belt is when you start learning. Everything up to black belt is basically just like building foundations, and you only really start learning once you achieve black belt. And for a while I believed that, but I don't believe it anymore, because obviously I've been training on and off for well over 20 years. Actually, when did I start? Wow, nearly like 25 years maybe, and I haven't achieved black belt, and it's basically each time it's been because of my health. I've stopped training for a while. If you've been watching my Karate Diary videos, you'll know that right now I'm not actively training because my health just won't allow it. If I try practice training, it just wipes me out and I can't function as a human being for a couple of days afterwards. But I haven't given up. Another thing you'll see on Facebook a lot, another expression is a black belt is basically just a white belt that never gave up. And I haven't given up. I fully intend on becoming a black belt, and a second dan, a third dan, a fourth dan. I want it to be a way of life. It's always going to be my way of life. Even when I'm not physically training, like now, I still think in karate. I'm still making these karate videos. It's still an aspect of who I am. But I've seen people achieve black belt very quickly. A lot of people were given very dry, boring answers, saying, "Oh, it takes 4 years, 5 years," and I kind of feel like they're missing the point. Okay, maybe it will take 4 or 5 years if you race through, if you've got absolutely no physical disabilities or illnesses, you've got no mental issues, you've got no learning disabilities, you've got the finances to be able to train fully all the time, you can practice at home, you don't have any other commitments that take you away from class, you don't have work that prevents you from getting to class, you don't have a family that prevents you from getting from class, you've got absolutely no reason why you can't train, and you can train fully every single day, maybe at home in the dojo, and you give it your all, you're naturally strong and flexible and talented, and maybe it will take you between 4 and 5 years. But other people, life gets in the way. You can't always train as much as you would like, because maybe you have work commitments, you have family commitments, you have health issues like I do, so you can't train fully. And it takes you a little bit longer. But also, while you're taking longer to go up the ranks, you don't stop learning. Karate isn't just about physically punching and kicking. There's a whole philosophy and way of life behind it as well. And I've been learning all that side. Different karate styles have slightly different philosophies, different masters have different philosophies. There's loads of books on it. I will start doing karate book reviews and stuff. That's for another video. But I also feel like to become a black belt, you need a certain level of maturity. It's not just about skill. Now, the style that I come from, you can't be a black belt until you're 16, because they've got the children's grades and they've got the adult grades. And I know there are a lot of karate styles out there where children can become black belts, and I have my own thoughts and opinions on that, but that's for another video if I ever make it. But I have seen, like on YouTube and stuff, I've seen kids who do seem to have the maturity and discipline, but the kids I've worked with just simply don't. and I agree with the 2 grading structure scheme. But then you could join what we like to call a Muk dojo. I'm not quite sure where the Muk comes from. I think it's a play on word of McDonald's or something, I don't know. But anyway, what a Muk dojo is basically there are dojos out there that give you belts, grades, whatever, simply for turning up. You train for maybe 3 months, they give you a new belt. You train for another 3 or 4 months, they give you another belt. And it doesn't necessarily reflect your skill and ability. And we're all aware of them. We all know they're out there. They do exist. There's one not far from where I live, actually. One of the kids, I think I may have mentioned this in a previous video, I'm not sure. One of the kids in the children's class, he came from another style because his mum, although she didn't really know anything about martial arts, she did have the intelligence and foresight to realise that the style of karate he was in was just simply handing out belts and new grades to the children just for turning up. And he was going up through the levels and it didn't reflect his skill and ability. And she found our karate class, which was close by. We're very strict. A lot of schools are strict. A lot of people watching this will say, well, actually, my karate school, dojo, whatever, is very strict, and they don't just hand out belts unless the person deserves it. And that's fine. I mean, I've got a very, very strict... I mean, if you remember, I don't know, one of the videos I actually read out some of the basic stuff I'd have to do for my next grading, which would be my last grading before black belt. And the amount of stuff I'd have to do, it takes such an effort. The physical endurance alone, as well as the mental strength, is immense. Just for that next grade, and that would have been my last official grading, because after that, for black belt, they just basically grade you when they give it to you when you're ready. Different schools are slightly different. I can't remember what video that's on. You just have to watch them all to find out which one it's on. But then there are people who teach, and they seem to have lost the point of karate. Now, a few times I've mentioned about, sometimes on the Karate Nerds group, and I have mentioned it on this as well, about how, I've worked with black belts and other styles, and they just simply don't know what they're doing, and it disheartens me, and I feel like it's bringing the whole of karate down. And then people often come back to me and say, well, you shouldn't worry about them, just worry about your own journey. And I've been told this my whole time, don't worry about other people, what they're doing, just worry about your own journey, focus on your own journey. And I do agree with this, like 99%, but then there are people who are bringing down the whole of karate and the whole of martial arts in general. And my journey is through karate, whether it's going fast or slowed or temporarily paused, and I can't have a journey through karate if karate itself is corrupted. And I remember I was with Kancho Ronnie once, or Hanchi Ronnie, whatever you want to call him, and he was saying that when you start out in karate, it's easy. Everyone is above you, it doesn't matter who you train from, they're all above you. And then as you get higher and higher up the levels, it gets harder and harder to find people to teach you. And I agree with that, it does get harder and harder. I mean, people often ask me, why do I go on gashgus? Why do I travel to train with people? Why can't I just learn it all where I am? And it's like, well, because who you're with doesn't know everything. No single instructor knows everything. And no single 2 instructors have got the same way of teaching. They might teach you the same thing in different ways, and one way may work and one way may not work, and the ability to teach is a whole different thing. So that's why I travel around. But then I've seen people who clearly don't know what they're doing. Okay, I'm going to show you a video now, a couple of videos, clips, which I found online. One of them I found recently on the Karate Nerds website. Another one I found several years back. And these are black belts training. I think it's karate. I'm not entirely sure what it is, to be honest. And you'll see that they don't know what they're doing. They're wearing black belts, but clearly they're no better than a beginner white belt. so that was painful to watch. And clearly the guy or woman, I don't know, teaching that sort of thing, clearly they've missed the point of what karate is. They've missed the point of what a martial art is. They don't understand the basics of what it is they're doing, and yet they're passing on their ignorance to a new generation of people, and they're in turn learning a bad thing, and then they're passing on their ignorance, and they think that's what karate is. They think that's what martial art is. They honestly believe what they're doing is good, and you've got the people watching and they're applauding because they're watching that thinking that's what it must be. And it's like, no, it really, really isn't. You don't know what you're doing, but you think you do. And it's sad to watch, and this is why I get upset about bad karate styles. And I say to people, yes, I should just be concentrating on my own journey. I shouldn't worry about what other people are doing. But then when I see things like that, it brings me down. And when I went to train with Jesse Yankamp on that video, I mentioned about the poor quality of the black belts there, and it really disheartened me. I went on a big rant about that in that video. They weren't on anywhere near that scale of incompetence, but I couldn't quite comprehend how they had black belts and yet their abilities were so poor. So to answer the question, how long does it take to become a black belt? Well, there is no answer. If you join a good school and you're naturally gifted and you've got the time to train, then yeah, you might go through the grades quickly. But at the same time, I've seen people who go through the grades slower, but yet they pick up something else. To be physically good in yourself doesn't necessarily make you a good karateka, a good student of karate. Maybe you can do the best punch and you can do the best kick or whatever, but that doesn't make you necessarily the best person at karate. I mean, you could go around with a big ego saying, yeah, I'm the greatest. I mean, if you watch my videos, you know that I don't come from a competition background. But you can do competition karate and not have an ego. But there again, a lot of competitions maybe focus either on kata, or maybe they focus on kumite, or maybe you focus on the sparring, whereas I'm used to doing a whole package of kata and bankai and drills and randori, sparring, kumite, kion. Kion is key to everything. And some people, they take little boxes, and I've seen people become masters at this, but haven't got a clue how to do this. Or people who are masters at this but haven't got a clue how to do this. But you know, that's fine, but again, a black belt in itself doesn't represent your overall skill. It doesn't represent your overall ability. It just doesn't. So to answer the question, how long does it take to become a black belt, there is no answer. I've said this already. There's no answer that I can give you at all. And even if you achieve it, it doesn't mean you'll necessarily be good at another thing. And I trained with a guy years ago. He attended a few gashkus I was on. He was a friend of somebody else who, it's complicated. Anyway, his name's Raymond Towers, and he was saying a story about how he thought he was really good, and, you know, he was a bit cocky, a bit arrogant. And he got defeated in a fight in seconds, and he was like, what the hell was that? You know, he thought he was so good, and it's just, he had nothing. And he realised, you know, he didn't have the skills he thought he had, and it gave him a real ego check. And a lot of people in martial arts will say, you know, you can't have an ego. You know, an ego, basically, if all you're after is saying, I've got a black belt, I am the best, isn't my ego amazing, you've lost the point. You never had the point. You don't, and it's just, so I mean, one day I will get a black belt. Some people say, oh, how can you be qualified to talk about this? You don't have a black belt. But the thing is, right, if I didn't stop training ever so often because of health issues and tried to recover, the video I'd be making now isn't how long does it take to get a black belt. The video I'd be making is I now have a black belt, and I'd be like, yeah, I've got a black belt now. I know that for sure. I mean, I'm not naturally gifted. I've trained with people who are just more naturally talented and gifted. You'll find this in all aspects of life. But I also trained with people who are extremely talented, extremely gifted. They shoot up through the grades. They seem to understand all the philosophy, and they've got the maturity, and they've got the discipline, they've got the will to train, and then they just leave, just like that. They just one day just say, I'm not doing it anymore, I've had enough, I'm leaving, I'm walking away. And they've got their own reasons for it. And that's fine. You know, I've known some people, I'm still friends with them, and I know other people that have gone up. They're not naturally gifted, they're not naturally talented, they've stuck with it, they got their black belt, and they're like, I've finally done it, I've achieved it, I've got my black belt, and then they leave. And I've seen this a lot, and it's like, why are they leaving? Why? Why do they think a black belt is the end goal? The black belt is not the end goal. As I said earlier, some people say a black belt is just the beginning, but I no longer agree with that statement. Because otherwise, I'm not going to say like the last 20, 25 years, I can't even remember what year I started, is not the beginning. And I was told, you know, I've been in my dojo longer than anyone else. I have earned the right to voice an opinion on how the dojo is run and how things are done, because basically the dojo is run by the person of the highest grade, whether they want to be in charge or not, and then someone who is not necessarily the highest grade, who desperately wants to have a say in how things are done, don't necessarily get a say, but that's a whole other video as well. But I've been told, you know, I have the right to say what I feel and how I think things are progressing, and I have the right to talk about how other students are doing and their progression and everything, although I haven't actually been there for a while. But even though I didn't necessarily have the rank around my waist, again, some people say all a belt is something to hold your gi together or something to hold your trousers up. I mean, I could say I have a black belt. Here is my black belt. It's got a nice buckle on it. I've had this thing for years. It's actually very old. It's a good hard wearing belt. It holds my jeans up. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It doesn't mean I'm good at karate. And I like to think I'm all right. I can hold my own. Probably not as good as I was, because obviously I've been out of training for a while. I made a whole video about leaving and coming back. Yeah, but if you think that's the end goal, then you're mistaken. A black belt is not the end goal. And it's not the beginning. It is just a step. As I say, some people feel that getting a black belt is the end. You've achieved it, you're done. Some people think that a black belt that's the beginning. Everything up to that is just the foundations, and then you start learning. I think that both theories are complete crap. It's just another step on the journey. You never stop learning. If you have the will to train, then you have the will to learn, and it's literally all it is just holds your gi together. It's like Jesse Yankamp often does seminars and he gives everyone pink belts. That way everyone's on a level playing field. And I quite like that idea. Pink belt training, you can't tell, is literally just there. Hold your gi together. Alright, I hope this video was helpful in some way. If you are wondering how long does it take, it takes as long as it takes, basically. That's the answer. You may never get it, you might get it, you might leave, you might stay. It takes as long as it takes. So being a black belt in itself doesn't necessarily make you good. It's just a thing to hold your gi together, which means karate uniform if you're unsure. So anyway, please subscribe if you like this. More karate videos along the way, other things. Cheers, and I will catch you later. Bye.